Roof Max of Hickory. Affordable roof rejuvenation. Visit MakeMyRoofLast.com.
It's time once again for our look back at some of the crime stories we had for you during the week of January 13th through January 17th here on the WHKY News. I'm Ralph Mangum. Here we go now.
46-year-old Timothy Joe Parlier was sentenced to serve the active term of incarceration after entering a plea to 2 counts of statutory rape of a child 15 years old or younger. The sentence was imposed last Thursday in Catawba County Superior Court. The Honorable Karen Edie Williams, Superior Court judge from Mecklenburg County, imposed terms of the active sentence after Parlier entered the guilty plea. As part of his sentence, Parlier was also ordered to register as a sex offender for a period of 30 years, enroll in sex offender treatment, and not have any contact with the victim. A female victim, now 20 years old, wrote a detailed letter when she turned 18 that outlined what was inflicted on her by the defendant. A forensic interview of that victim's siblings by the Children's Advocacy and Protection Center of Catawba County confirmed the abuse, along with interviews from numerous individuals who had suspicions that something may have happened to the victim. A detailed investigation into the allegations by the Maiden Police Department corroborated what the victim told investigators. The incidents occurred from the time that the victim was 8 years old on. The incidents occurred in Catawba and Lincoln counties. Reporting from Catawba County for WHKY News, I'm Rob Eastwood.
35-year-old Jim Jong of Dudley Shoals Road in Granite Falls is facing felony charges in Burke County for trafficking a Schedule II controlled substance, that's methamphetamine, possession of a firearm by a felon, fleeing to elude arrest with a motor vehicle, and possession with intent to manufacture, sell, or deliver a Schedule II controlled substance, along with misdemeanor counts of possession of drug paraphernalia and carrying a concealed firearm. At about 4:40 last Wednesday afternoon, Burke County Sheriff's deputies were on routine patrol in the Eichert area near Old NC 10 when they saw a red Kawasaki motorcycle with no license plate. Deputies attempted to conduct a traffic stop, but the driver pulled into the parking lot at a nearby restaurant and then accelerated onto Miller Bridge Road. Officers gave chase as the driver, Jim Jong, reached speeds in excess of 90 miles per hour. Deputies saw Jong throw a small black backpack from his shoulders onto Miller Bridge Road. A short time later, Jong lost control and crashed. He was taken into custody. Officers found the discarded backpack. In the backpack were several plastic bags containing more than a pound of a crystalline substance, a digital scale, and a concealed firearm. The substance was field tested and identified as meth. Deputies called EMS to the scene to evaluate Jong, who refused transport by EMS. Jong complained of shoulder pain and was transported by officers to UNC Health Blue Ridge, where physicians kept him for observation. Jong was set to be arraigned after he was released from the hospital. A district court appearance in Morganton was set for January 13th. And 30-year-old David William Nizamoff, who is listed as a homeless person, was arrested by Hickory police Sunday on felony counts of possession of a Schedule II controlled substance and possession of methamphetamine. Nizamoff was incarcerated in the Catawba County Detention Facility under no bond. District and Superior Court dates were scheduled for January 13th.
A Granite Falls man is charged with auto larceny. 40-year-old Donald Allen Parlier of Granite Falls was arrested Friday by Caldwell County authorities. He was charged with 2 felony counts each of auto larceny, possession of stolen motor vehicle, and a single count of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Parlier was jailed under $70,000 secured bond in the Caldwell County Detention Center. A district court date was scheduled for January 13th. A man who was reportedly involved in a chase with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol last month is now in custody in Alexander County. 41-year-old Herman Eugene Williams Jr. of Statesville is charged with felony counts of flee to elude arrest with a motor vehicle and assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill an emergency worker, habitual impaired driving, and assault with a deadly weapon on a government officer. He's also charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of assault with a deadly weapon and 1 misdemeanor count of injury to real property, along with several traffic offenses. WHKY previously reported on the incident, which occurred on December 17th. A State Highway Patrol member attempted to stop a Jeep Liberty for a speeding violation on US 64 in Iredell County near the Alexander County line. The suspect, 41-year-old Herman Eugene Williams Jr. of Statesville, was transported by helicopter to Atrium Health Carolinas Medical Center in Charlotte with non-life-threatening injuries. He has been released and was placed in the Alexander County Detention Center under $500,000 secured bond. A district court date is scheduled for January 27th in Taylorsville. I'm Ariana Mack for WHKY.
All 3 of the defendants sentenced are Lenore residents. They were sentenced on various drug charges. 2 of the 3 received prison terms in excess of 13 years. 44-year-old Thomas Ansel Burgess was recently sentenced to 13 years, 3 months in prison for trafficking Schedule I controlled substance. During the investigation into Burgess, narcotics agents seized more than 450 grams of fentanyl with a street value of more than $268,900. 50-year-old James Eugene Moore Jr. was sentenced to 35 to 51 months for trafficking cocaine. During the investigation, narcotics agents seized 50 grams of cocaine, 380 fentanyl pills, and 8 grams of marijuana with a street value of more than $21,000. 41-year-old Zachary George Stevenson was recently sentenced to 13 years, 3 months for trafficking Schedule II controlled substance. The investigations that led to the sentencing of these individuals were conducted by the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office ICE Unit, the Department of Homeland Security, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, and the Lenore Police Department. Reporting from Caldwell County for WHKY News, I'm Rob Eastwood.
In Catawba County Superior Court on January 13th, 75-year-old Jimmy Lee Randolph of Conover was sentenced to 8 to 11 years in prison after pleading guilty to 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, and an additional count of assault with a deadly weapon inflicting serious injury. The Honorable Karen Edie Williams, Superior Court judge from Mecklenburg County, handed down the sentence after Randolph entered the guilty plea on the day his case was scheduled for trial. The judge ordered the sentence to run at the expiration of his parole revocation. The offenses occurred while Randolph was out of prison on post-release after serving 33 years for a 1990 murder conviction. When he was released from prison, Randolph was working a job and was befriended there by the female victim of the assault. She helped him acclimate to life outside prison, and he assisted her with some of her financial obligations. Later on, the female victim began a relationship with another man. In September 2023, the woman and her boyfriend returned to his apartment and were attempting to enter when Randolph physically attacked the man and knocked him to the ground. He then stabbed the male victim in the back with a 13-inch kitchen knife. During the attack, the man's 3-year-old son was knocked from his arms and was also struck by the knife. Randolph then stabbed the female victim in the back. Multiple calls to 911 were made to report the incident, including one by the defendant, during which he told the dispatcher that he had committed the offenses. The knife described by the victims was found in the defendant's apartment. Robert Backman led the investigation for the Conover Police Department. Assistant District Attorney Jonathan Greer and Taylor Rocket handled the prosecution with aid from legal assistant Stacy London.
The defendant in this case entered a guilty plea here at Catawba County Superior Court earlier this week. 40-year-old James Drew Ballard of Morganton entered a guilty plea to 2 counts of trafficking fentanyl and was sentenced to 6 to 8 years in prison. That guilty plea was entered on Monday. He will also be required to pay 2 mandatory fines totaling $550,000. The offenses, both investigated by the Hickory Police Department, occurred on November 21st of 2023 and September 12th of 2024. In the first case, officers saw a vehicle in a church parking lot. The defendant and a female were in that vehicle. As officers approached, Ballard exited the vehicle and tried to block their view. He then tried to flee as officers attempted to detain him. A search of the vehicle revealed a zippered pouch that contained multiple baggies of illegal substances, along with a cell phone with messages related to drug transactions. In the second case, the defendant's vehicle was stopped for an expired registration. A canine unit alerted on the vehicle and a search ensued. Drugs were found in Ballard's pants and multiple bags of narcotics were found in the vehicle. So once again, a 6 to 8 year prison sentence for 40-year-old James Drew Ballard of Morganton. He entered a guilty plea to 2 counts of trafficking fentanyl on Monday in Catawba County Superior Court. And reporting from the Catawba County Justice Center in Newton, I'm Rob Eastwood, WHKY News.
57-year-old Lisa Gant Turner of Log Cabin Road in Statesville was arrested Sunday by Iredell County Sheriff's officers. She's charged with felony possession of methamphetamine and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. On Sunday, a deputy initiated a traffic stop on a Chevrolet Equinox for an expired vehicle registration. While the deputy was speaking with the driver, Lisa Gant Turner, another deputy arrived to assist and immediately recognized Turner and her residence from a recent narcotics-related search that occurred at her home. A canine officer conducted an exterior sniff of Turner's vehicle and alerted to the presence of narcotics, prompting a search. Deputies found methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia inside Turner's purse. Turner was placed in the Iredell County Detention Center without bond due to the fact that she was already out on bond for previous charges. A district court appearance is scheduled for February 3rd. I'm Ariana Mack for WHKY.
23-year-old John Daniel Maxwell of Claremont Way in Mooresville was arrested on January 14th by Iredell County Sheriff's officers on felony counts of assault by strangulation and larceny, along with misdemeanor counts of assault on a female, fleeing to elude arrest, and more. Events leading to Maxwell's arrest began just before noon Tuesday when officers responded to a domestic incident at the suspect's residence. Before officers arrived, Maxwell fled the scene in a 2012 Jeep registered to the victim. Deputies spotted the vehicle and attempted a traffic stop at the entrance to the development. Maxwell accelerated at a high speed, swerving off the road multiple times. Due to safety concerns, deputies terminated the pursuit while maintaining visual contact. Maxwell continued to drive recklessly before fleeing south on I-77. Deputies at the Claremont Way residence gathered evidence and obtained arrest warrants. Officers also learned that Maxwell was out on a $100,000 bond in connection with an assault case in Tennessee. He had disabled his ankle monitor. Authorities in Tennessee confirmed that extraditable warrants would be issued. A few hours later, deputies found Maxwell, who attempted to flee on foot but was quickly apprehended. He was jailed in the Iredell County Detention Center, where he's being held without bond. A district court appearance was set for February 4th. And 36-year-old Sean Patrick Beatty of North Main Avenue in Newton has been arrested by Conover police on charges of possession of burglary tools, first-degree trespassing, possession of meth, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Beatty was jailed in Catawba County Wednesday morning without bond. A court date was scheduled on the 15th. Authorities are seeking a suspect in connection with multiple armed robberies at Dollar General stores. At about 7:45 Sunday evening, Statesville police responded to a report of an armed robbery at the Dollar General on West Front Street. According to employees, 2 black males entered the store, demanded money, and left shortly after they were unable to access the store safe. As officers investigated, a second call came in at 8:15 p.m. reporting another armed robbery at the Dollar General on Shelton Avenue. The suspects matched the description from the earlier robbery. A small amount of cash and various tobacco products were stolen. No employees were harmed during either event. 23-year-old Chance Jaleb Jameson of Statesville was identified as a suspect in both robberies. Investigators also connected Jameson to an armed robbery that occurred on January 5th at the Dollar General on the Wilkesboro Highway. Warrants have been issued for Jameson's arrest, charging him with 3 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon and 2 counts apiece of robbery with a dangerous weapon and felony conspiracy. He's also charged with single counts of attempted robbery with a dangerous weapon and second-degree kidnapping. Jameson also has outstanding warrants from neighboring agencies. At last report, he remained at large. The investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information regarding Jamison's whereabouts should call 704-878-3406. A link to leave anonymous tips is posted at WHKY.com. 28-year-old Tony C. of 13th Avenue Northeast in Hickory was arrested by Hickory police on January 8th on 10 felony counts each of second and third degree sexual exploitation of a minor. He was taken into custody without incident at about 3:50 p.m. on the 8th at a restaurant on Lenorine Boulevard Southeast in Hickory. Following his arrest, C. was placed in the Catawba County Detention Facility under no bond. He remained in jail as of January 16th, with bond now set at $1,250,000. A first appearance in district court was scheduled for January 9th in Newton, with his next court date coming up on February 6th. C. also has an appearance set for February 13th on felony drug charges.
The suspect in this case was arrested in connection to a robbery at a Walgreens store earlier this month. Following an investigation, the suspect was identified and multiple agencies served search warrants that led to the suspect's arrest. 31-year-old Keith Brandon Cunningham of Statesville was arrested Tuesday by Mooresville police. He's charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon. On January 5th, the Mooresville Police Department responded to Walgreens Pharmacy on River Highway. An individual presented a note to the pharmacist indicating he was armed and demanded fentanyl and oxycodone. Mooresville detectives conducted their investigation and they were able to identify the suspect. On Tuesday, after executing 2 search warrants in Statesville with the assistance of the Statesville Police Department, Mooresville detectives arrested the suspect, Keith Brandon Cunningham. Following the arrest, Cunningham was placed in the Iredell County Detention Center without bond. Bond has since been set at $200,000. A district court date was scheduled on Wednesday. Further charges are pending in this case. Reporting for WHKY News, I'm Rob Eastwood.
A Hickory man is charged by Newton PD with a vehicle break-in. 39-year-old Oliver Prelis of 2nd Street Place Northeast in Hickory was arrested Wednesday by Newton police officers. He's charged with felony break or enter a motor vehicle and criminal contempt. Prelis was incarcerated in the Catawba County Detention Facility under no bond. A district court appearance was scheduled for today.
33-year-old John Dexter Wines of the Mount Ella Highway in Mooresville is wanted by Iredell County Sheriff's officers on felony counts of assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and a violation of a domestic violence protection order with a deadly weapon, plus a misdemeanor count of interfering with an electronic monitoring device. At about 3:15 a.m. on January 16th, deputies responded to a reported shooting at the intersection of Wiggins Road and the Mount Ella Highway. Upon arrival, deputies found the victim with a gunshot wound to the lower abdomen. The suspect had fled the scene in a vehicle. Iredell County EMS provided medical assistance, and the victim was transported to the hospital following a brief interview. Officers learned that the shooting stemmed from a domestic dispute. The victim and the suspect were known to each other. Investigators determined that the suspect, John Dexter Wines, followed the victim's vehicle earlier that night. At the intersection, Wines blocked the victim's car, leading to an altercation during which he allegedly shot the victim with a handgun before fleeing toward Rowan County. Wines had been wearing a court-ordered ankle monitor due to prior domestic violence charges, but he cut it off while fleeing. Warrants have been issued for Wines' arrest. The investigation is ongoing and additional charges may follow. Anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of John Dexter Wines should contact the Sheriff's Office, 704-878-3100.
The suspects were arrested following a traffic stop that was initiated after police learned that one of the occupants in the vehicle had charges pending against him. During their investigation, police reportedly seized fentanyl, methamphetamine, and multiple firearms. Both suspects are scheduled to appear in court this upcoming Tuesday. 32-year-old Tony Randall Gregg Jr. and 22-year-old Shayna McKenzie Patton, both of Lenore, were arrested Thursday by Caldwell County Sheriff's officers. Gregg is charged with 2 counts of trafficking opium or heroin, possession of a firearm by a felon, probation violation, and failure to appear. Patton is charged with 2 counts of trafficking opium or heroin and maintaining a vehicle or dwelling for controlled substance. At 7:33 a.m. Thursday, deputies conducted a vehicle stop on a silver Ford Fusion on Kincaid Hill Road in Lenoir. The car was stopped due to the fact that deputies recognized Tony Randall Gregg and he had outstanding warrants for his arrest. Deputies confirmed the identity of the driver of the vehicle as Gregg. The vehicle was also occupied by Shayna McKenzie Patton. Gregg was placed under arrest on charges of probation violation and failure to appear. As he was being placed under arrest, he was found to be sitting on a 9mm handgun. Both occupants admitted they were in possession of controlled substances, according to authorities. A search resulted in the discovery of 14.5 grams of suspected fentanyl and 2 grams of suspected methamphetamine, along with a second firearm. The suspects were also found to be in possession of $2,739 in U.S. currency, which was also seized. Both suspects were brought to the Caldwell County Detention Center. Gregg was jailed under no bond. Patton's bond was set at $75,000. Both suspects are scheduled to appear in district court on Tuesday. Reporting for WHKY News, I'm Rob Eastwood.
32-year-old Christian Uriel Perez of Taylorsville was sentenced to serve up to 15 months in prison this week in Alexander County District Court. He pleaded guilty to possession of a controlled substance on jail premises and carrying a concealed gun. He will be placed on probation at the conclusion of the sentence. At last report, Perez remained in the Alexander County Detention Center awaiting transfer to the State Department of Corrections. And 24-year-old Grayson Edward Wilson of Legion Road in Hudson was arrested Thursday by authorities in Caldwell County. He's charged with disseminating obscenity and harmful material to a minor. Wilson was released on a $4,000 bond. No court date is currently listed. And those were just a few of the crime stories we had for you during the week of January 13th through January 17th. You can find our weekly roundup every Saturday on our YouTube channel, where you will also find our top stories, the crime report, local sports, and community focus. I'm Ralph Mangum. Thanks for joining us.